Welcome to Perspectives, a podcast by Essence Learning LLC, and a place where leaders learn from leaders. Let's join today's episode.
Welcome to Perspectives, a podcast by Essence Learning. So glad you're able to join us today. We have a great topic. We're going to talk about respect, the essence of respect. We have a great group of panelists here. We're just going to have an open discussion about respect, leave you hopefully with some tidbits and things that you could take away in order to make sure that respect is embedded within your organization and in really all parts of your life. So I would like to just get started with introducing our panel. Welcome, you guys. I'm so glad you're here. Thank you so much for participating. Ruben, let's start with you. Can you introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about what you do? And then I'd like for you to answer a question for us. Do you think respect is earned or given?
Oh, gosh. Okay. My name is Ruben Gonzales. I work in the space of diversity, equity, and inclusion, currently for a large global company supporting 66,000 employees across the globe. And is respect earned or given? I think it's both. So often, though, I think, when we have a little bit more compassion and give respect, but I think it's a mutual way. It's both. So.
Okay. We'll talk more about that. Thank you. All right, Kiki.
Hello, everyone. I'm Kanetra Hights, or go by the name of Kiki. I am a director of diversity, equity, and inclusion, and with a company that is in the food services manufacturing field. I have found two things with respect being earned or given. I feel like it is given at first, but when you lose respect, it's a process of earning it back.
Okay, great. Good discussion to start.
Yes.
How about you, Wendy? Thank you.
Well, I am Wendy Ables, and I am the CEO, owner, operator of WWA Consulting. With about 30 years experience in human resources, my company offers our services to small organizations to kind of help them get started and get on their way to being successful. And as far as respect being earned or given, I agree with Ruben. I think it's both. And I also agree with Kiki. It's according to where you are in the respect space or in the respect spectrum of a relationship with someone. So yes, we can dive into that a little bit more.
I love it. And why that's an interesting question, and it really helps to caterpillar our discussion into the essence of respect is, the idea of respect is at the core of every relationship, right? In order to have any relationship, you have to have some level of respect. And in the workplace, respect is required. I mean, that's, every human being, no matter what their differences are, what they bring to the table, what they don't bring to the table, what they contribute and what they can't contribute, at the core is an innate responsibility to be, expectation, to be respected. And so when we think about is respect earned or given in the workplace, oftentimes there's people who say, you have to earn my respect. And then there's others who say or believe that, when I walk in the door, I demand a certain respect. And I agree with both of you, all of you. I think that at some point it's a spectrum. You start with respect and it grows to trust and then to esteem. And so what I'd like for us to do is just to kind of talk about, what does respect look like for you? When is it? I want to make sure that our leaders know that when it's tangible, when it's visible, when I can reach out and touch and know that when respect is absent and when it's present. It's almost like breathing. You don't know that it's not there until you can't catch your breath. And all of a sudden, it's the most important thing. So as long as you're respected, as long as you're breathing, you don't really do too much or say too much. But the minute you lose your breath or you lose that respect, yes, it becomes a lot more prevalent. So, our role is to try to keep respect in the workplace, right? So let's talk about that. That's probably as much as I want to say. I would love to hear more from you on your aspect and your idea about respect. How do you know when respect is present?
I think from if your employees feel appreciated. Mm-hmm. I correlate respect and appreciation. It's just a feeling that they get that, this person does care about me because they've gone the extra mile. They've shown that they've cared. They've had interest in my life. They understand. And in a big part, they've done active listening. So they've listened to me, they've responded, they have taken in my concerns. So automatically I can tell if someone's listening to me and they're very empathetic about what's going on and they show interest, I can say that person does respect me. And they've acted upon maybe something that I've asked for. And so that respect to me is in turn appreciation. They appreciate me, what I'm bringing to the table. They respect myself and my differences. And then they've acted upon that as well. So it's that action of like, I've done it, I've listened to you, I've followed through, I can show that I respect you.
Absolutely. Beautiful. And to tag on to that, I think when a person feels acknowledged, that literally starts the ability for them to feel respected. Now, I think acknowledgement is the first step, but you also need to take it to the next level of getting to know that person, getting to know something about them, their culture, their experiences. But the initial acknowledgement could simply just be looking in their eyes when they speak to them, when you're speaking to each other. Eye contact is a huge part of respect. Active listening, as you said. We talk about the attention that we give to a relationship. We think about our cell phones, for instance. That is one of the ways that people can immediately feel disrespected when you have something that can distract you from paying attention to just simply holding a conversation with the person.
Yeah.
So we have to acknowledge people for us to even be considered to be respectful, acknowledging them.
Okay, so that's kind of global, right? That's kind of a global thing to make sure that I acknowledge you and I hear you. I see you. Those are kind of the fundamental needs of people, to be seen and to be heard and to be acknowledged, versus to be ignored and not, so those are the things that, kind of the fundamental signs of respect. Are you, Ruben?
I think I agree with everything that's being said here. It's about really being empathetic and listening to someone. But I think I think respect is definitely a spectrum, both for the individual that is perhaps receiving it and for the one that's giving it. We're all so different and we idealize different values and perspectives. And sometimes someone might be given respect in a way that someone might see it as offensive. And I think at the core, though, if we're thinking about organizations, employment, places of employment, that there should be a minimum standard, right? Table stakes, if you will, for how you're going to engage with someone. And what does that respect look like? I think that's why it's so important for organizations to really speak to this aspect of respect, because there can be a spectrum. And it happens all too often every day where someone says, well, I meant good, right? I had good intentions. And it was coming off from a place of, of care, or perhaps even they might use the term love. And so we have to try to help leaders particularly see that there is a spectrum and, what does respect look like across the board? But, trying to understand individuals for how they want to be respected. And I think that's why it's so important to think about this concept of, is it given or is it earned? And if you're in a position of leadership, I would hope that you are in a position where you feel that you are giving respect and that you never feel like you have to earn.
I often ask the question, and if you feel that respect to leaders, if you feel like respect has to be earned, what do you do? How do you treat the person in the meantime? What is that?
What's that in between?
What do we do? And so they kind of, I'm not sure, but that's one of the things that, you have to start from a place of respect. Everybody, we as human beings have that right. That's just the human right to be respected. I love the feedback that you guys are giving. I want to kind of stretch this a little bit further to talk about respect on a time. What does it make you feel? What reaction and response do you get from respect, and why that's important for our listeners, particularly when you're on a team or you're leading a team, and you're just going about your day to day to get the work done, and then you think I'm demonstrating respect. You think that people feel respected. What do you feel what do you see when respect is present? Give me some words, some feelings that you feel and see when respect is present.
Well, you feel the connection.
Mhm.
Sometimes connection is just being in the room, and it's the aura of the room.
Mhm.
It's the space that you're in. You can feel when there's tension in a room,
Mhm.
and you can also feel when people are comfortable. So, what it feels like, it feels connected. You can feel the impact of possibly even the success that you're making in the project that you're working on. You can feel the impact of, okay, we're connecting to each other. We're getting things done. We're open-minded. We're having those discussions. When something's not going right, so this person feels comfortable in saying, hey, let's stop right here. Let's do this. You can feel it when it's present because all things line up. All things start to work together. And if they're not, someone feels comfortable enough to say, hey, let's pause right here and let's consider this.
Awesome. I
So-
love that. Thank you, Wendy.
I completely agree with that, because when you're talking about that feeling of feeling connected and feeling able to, I feel like you're able to bring 100% of who you truly are when you live in a world of respect. And when we correlate that with diversity, equity, and inclusion, we talk about the differences that people bring to the table. We want everybody to feel comfortable bringing 100% of who they are to the workplace.
Absolutely.
But in order to do that, there has to be some level of respect present from the leader to the individual. And so that feeling of I can be who I am and be comfortable in my own skin and sit at the table with my leaders or with my peers, because I feel that level of respect as well.
Wow, awesome. You want to jump on that, or you want us to move on, Ruben? I don't want to make sure.
I think I don't know that I would add a value. I think those are two tremendous.
They did a real good job with that, didn't they? I loved it. Thank you. So think about how disrespect looks. You know, we just kind of talked about the well-oiled machine. Things really kind of align and things go well together, and people are interacting. We're being productive. We're being collaborative. We're being innovative. We're doing all of those things when we feel respected. And then all of a sudden the air gets sucked out of the room where disrespect enters in. What is it creeps in? What does that look like? What does disrespect look
Feels
like?
like the complete shutdown.
Yeah.
Nobody's
Stuck in
talking.
traffic.
You listen. You can see it in the body language. You can see it in just no productivity. Everything's stagnant, you know. And it may not come out as to pinpoint exactly what it is, but it's a part of disrespect. Someone is not feeling 100% of themselves. They're not able to bring everything, their authentic selves, to the table. And if you've got a room full of that, then there's something that's going to have to happen.
And a room full of that. So I could disrespect one person and someone sees it, right?
Yes.
Yes.
And so that, even though I didn't disrespect you, you saw the disrespect, and then, or you tell, this is such a disrespectful organization, or my leader is so disrespectful, and give that one example. And what does that do, right? That's it. It moves around.
It's like a domino effect.
Yes.
And then if it happens to one person and somebody else sees it, and then they're like, it can happen to me next. Let me go and tell this next person.
You become the disrespectful person, even though that may not happen. Then that leader's disrespectful.
Yes. And how long does that reputation follow you?
Mhm.
That reputation of you being the disrespectful leader, and then does it follow you throughout the whole organization? Now other people know about it. How does that? No one wants to come and work for you and work for a leader who's disrespectful because you've gotten that reputation.
And so even for the organization, then, that sounds like that could even spill over
All
to the
right.
organization. I go out and say, oh, the leaders there are disrespectful, when maybe you ran into one or two. That's interesting to see how that
becomes
spreads.
the name of the culture.
So it's
That
branded.
culture is
Yes.
right.
That culture is disrespectful. So if we think about the fast spread of disrespect, does the idea of respect, does that go as quickly? I see you respect someone. Does that travel quite as fiercely as disrespect does?
I wish it would.
No, it does not.
I wish it would, though.
Good news doesn't travel as
Yeah,
fast.
I think there's a line between I'm a leader and I'm doing what I'm supposed to be doing. And it's because it's in my job title and these are the things that I'm doing to meet my job requirements. And then on the other side of the line is I treat my employees respectfully.
Absolutely.
And I care about them.
Absolutely.
And so where is that line at? And it's hard to sometimes decipher which side that leader is on until you really see some tangible, actionable things come from that leader where you can say, okay, this leader has gone above and beyond what they're supposed to do. And now they're acting in that moment of respect.
And I think what you will see spread slowly is when you're consistent with it. Then they understand that this person really does care. This leader is really about inclusiveness. This leader is really about the diversity and accepting everybody in their authentic self. And so that will spread, but it would take, several tangible things to occur. And people have to notice the consistency of it.
And consistency. And so with that, when you have that consistency, do you guys agree that that time where I may have been disrespectful, it's almost give me a little grace. Oh, that's not her normal. That's not the way he normally does. And so, and if it's in an environment where you've created that respect that we talked about earlier, I feel a little more comfortable saying, I probably shouldn't have said that, or that was very disrespectful, or I don't feel comfortable when you say things like that, because you've created that environment. So people are a little bit more apt to forgive you or to approach you and let you know that what you did was unacceptable or not appreciated or offensive or disrespectful. But if it's a common diet or occurrence of disrespect, or even if you've done it once or twice, there's that trend. Twice is a trend in a lot of organizations. Twice is a trend. You did it once, they'll do it again.
Right.
So respect you don't get quite that level of grace.
Yeah.
And so it's important for leaders to understand up front, in my opinion, if you agree, that respect is so imperative. Can you think of a time when maybe you were disrespectful?
Okay.
Share a little bit of time. Just one time. Not the trend of two, just the one. That one exception.
Well, it's just interesting that, I had to really think about that. And it was me simply not slowing down enough to hear someone. And I thought I had acknowledged them in their full authentic self. And I hadn't. And literally the way I felt about it was, I have to make this person whole in this space again. And yes, so I had to do due diligence. I had to work harder. I had to make sure that they understood that it didn't come from a place, but I had to earn that person's, respect for them to understand that, but knowing what it was, I became very intentional about not letting it happen again.
More
right?
sensitive.
A lot more sensitive to it, and very sensitive to the fact that, as you stated earlier, respect is different for everyone. What it looks like for this person may be something totally different for this person. And I was treating it more globally. So, yeah.
Anything else to add to that, team? Team of panelists?
I think for me, I use the words "I don't care" to someone, and it came out very disrespectful on my end just by saying those words. And they were telling me a story that's not even work related, but something around their family, but it was important to them. And I used those words, and I can automatically sense the shift in the face and the way that they looked. And I said, oh, hold on. I should have never said that I don't care, because you're talking about your family and I don't care about you. So I think using those words, we have to be careful, because words hurt.
Yes.
And they cut deeper than what we think they do. And so taking that time to think back and go back and say, I didn't mean to say it that way. And now you are in a position where you have to earn that person's respect back because of just 3 simple words that you said. But that can make the difference in respect and disrespect.
Right. Really can.
Can you think of a time, Ruben, when you were disrespectful? How'd that make you feel? What was the experience? What was kind of the context around that?
I think I do one particular circumstance comes to mind, and this topic of respect is really kind of hitting home. I had started a new job, and I made some judgments based off of biases.
Mhm.
And believe it or not, 3 days in, I decided I feel I should be respected. I'm judging this individual based off of biases, and I'm not going to work here. I'm going to resign. And so I was bold, and I told my new boss that I was not going to work there. And the individual asked why, and I shared my perspective. And come to find out that I made some quick judgments that were false. And in fact, the individual was trying to respect me, but there was a lack of understanding and awareness. And it allowed us to both grow. And we had a wonderful working relationships for 7 years after.
Yeah. Oh, wow.
And what it taught me was I was disrespecting this individual based off of my preconceived biases. And I almost lost an opportunity to not only grow myself, but to give someone that grace and really kind of seek to understand. And that taught me a lot. And I think from a respect perspective, so often individuals, minorities, we're the ones that give a lot of grace, and we always have to bring that to the forefront, unfortunately. But I think in those moments where individuals really are truly authentic and they're just seeking to understand, if we can continue to uphold that and give them a little grace, and they show us that they truly are good people, and I mean that genuinely good people, I think they deserve it. And that's where that balance of earned versus given comes into play. Yeah. Hey, but some people don't earn that. Some people don't deserve that respect. I'm going to say that.
Yeah, I love that. Give a little grace. I'm going to steal that term from you, Ruben, that give a little grace, and hang it up on my door in the morning. So when people come, I'm like, oh, are you giving a little grace this morning to someone?
You can have it. Give it a little grace today, not today.
I'm going to decide when I will respect you and when I'm not. The messaging from leaders oftentimes is everything is so sensitive. People are so, I don't know what to say. I don't know how to act. I feel like I'm walking on eggshells a lot. The environment is so, volatile right now in terms of relationships and building relationships. And, the messaging for our leaders now is people want to be respected. That's universal language. Our work as leaders is to find out what that looks like for each individual, and to watch what, like Kiki was saying, their body language is, and to share your story, to be your perspective, so that people can tell you whether that's true or not, and challenge your own reactions to things. So I always tell leaders, challenge yourself, challenge your reaction. Our definition of respect is treat others with dignity, maintain their personal esteem, and then value their individuality. And so as we talk about treating others with dignity, what does that look like? That is fundamental human rights. And so we want to make sure that people are seen, heard, and acknowledged, as we talked about. Then when we talked about maintaining their personal esteem, make sure people leave the same way that they came, no matter what the conversation is. You shouldn't feel less after having an interaction with me than you did when you started. Right. So when I maintain that personal esteem, so if we think that I said I don't care, or I didn't acknowledge you, or I thought less of you because of my biases, you're not maintaining their esteem. You don't have to build it, but you need to, maintain it. When I walk away from you, I need to feel at least the same way I came when I left, or how I think I am. I look at myself as a lion, and you see me as a kitten. When I walk away, I still need to be roaring. You can't, don't take me down, right? And then value their individuality. You all said that very well. Making sure that we look at the person individually and decide, I choose to respect you. I want to know what that looks like for you, and get to know them and your individuality. What does that look like? Do I want to be like, if you didn't speak to me this morning and you spoke to me 9 other mornings, I'm going to just feel, well, she's having a bad day. But if 9 mornings you don't speak to me in the first, then all of a sudden the 10th morning you say hi, and well, oh, what's that about? So, we just got to think about the individuality of that. Do you all agree with that, or have anything to add to that?
Yeah, I do. When you talk about treat with dignity, that rang very clear with me about that. I recently saw a video on social media about this woman who goes and feeds the homeless every day.
Mhm.
And when she greets them, she calls them kings and queens. And the reason why she does that is because they don't get treated with dignity all the time.
Mhm.
So she can add a little bit of dignity to their life every day. That makes a difference.
Absolutely.
And that resonates with me because sometimes we don't think about people and the positions that they're in,
Awesome.
and we don't treat everybody with dignity in the way that they should be. So when you talk about giving that respect and that
Right.
treating with dignity, not even knowing them and knowing that they're in this difficult situation, you still have the opportunity to treat people with dignity. And in turn, that gives them that moment of respect. Because you don't know somebody's past, present, future, and they could, in the situation that they're in, but that moment of putting them into that dignity and that respect can make all the difference in the world.
Like they say, you may not remember what they did, but you'll always remember how they made you feel.
Yes.
And that's what respect is. You know,
Really.
they'll always make you always walk away knowing I dealt with Kiki, and I'm not sure I can't, 4 or 5, but every time I work with her, I feel good about myself. I feel
Yeah.
like my esteem is still maintained, or my individuality. I don't have to put on airs, and that's what that result of respect will do. Now, what is an organization, as leaders, a steady diet of that, or the consistency, as you're talking about, Wendy, of that? What can we leave with our leaders as tips that what are some of the things that they can do to get that consistency going and to build, sustain, or enhance relationships with respect?
Well, I think it's important that a culture is created, first of all,
Mm-hmm.
that is open and that is inclusive
Mm-hmm.
to every individual and to each individual.
Okay.
So they're all different, making sure that it's inclusive to include that. And that means getting to know your people. I think, honestly, I think focus groups, small group sessions, those types of things really are important in the workplace so that people get to know that, you may have some introverts that don't talk to anybody, they stay to themselves. They need to feel just as valued as the person that is walking up and down the aisle speaking to everybody every morning, So meet them where they are individually and create that culture that they know, hey, this place is really, they care about us.
I like that. And don't judge them because they don't get up and walk down the aisle like you do, because that's not where the comfort level is. Like, well, if you really want me to, you need to act a certain way. But you're saying allow them to have their own individuality and respect. That's how they want to be respected. I don't need to greet everybody in the morning, but I'm glad to see everybody, even though I don't get up and go greet them.
Exactly.
Awesome. Kiki, you want to add to that before we end? We're about ready to wrap this up, and I want to make sure I hear from you.
Yes, sure. I think for leaders in an organization, I completely agree. It's that listening aspect and listening to their employees so that you can build the culture that they want and they need.
Yes.
That they need so that they can grow as well. When we get wrapped up as senior leaders in budgets and timing and meeting regulations, and we forget that there are people who work for the organization. They're the ones who are building the culture. And so we have to really start to listen to our employees, take time to talk to the employees. That's what is needed. It's the time to talk to the employees. Come out of your office and socialize. I like to go on the manufacturing floor just to see what's going on, and so that they can see somebody and they have the opportunity to talk, give me feedback, make suggestions. So just taking that time out to really just have a conversation with someone and show that you do care about them and their interests. I feel that helps out, and that helps you create programs that they want, and in turn, people stay. People stay where they want, where they feel respected. They don't stay at places where they don't feel disrespected. They feel unheard. They will leave you. But when they feel heard, respected, valued, they will stay. You have to make that effort and put that effort in.
You mentioned quite a few things there. The time that we have to figure out as leaders what that time looks like, and it doesn't have to be an inordinate amount of time, but it needs to be some time that's dedicated towards the people on the floor, the people in your department, the people that they can see you. But you also mentioned something about development and growth, that it allows people to know that they can grow. So I love that growth aspect of it as well. So taking the time to know the people and allowing them to grow from where they are. All right, we're going to end it with you. Give us something to make sure that as listeners, we can walk away with understanding the value of respect in the workplace, and what can we take away in terms of tips that we need to do when we get back to the workplace?
You know, I mentioned a comment that you made earlier that so often, not just leaders, but people say, oh, you know, everyone's so sensitive these days. And I just, you know, I feel like I'm walking on eggshells. And what that says to me is that we have an individual that's disconnected. They're not taking the time to understand their team. They're not taking to understand their coworkers. As leaders, they're not taking the time to understand what are the issues that my workforce is going through. And so my advice, my tip would be to get engaged, to have listening sessions, to lean on a strong diversity, equity, and inclusion program, and to really invest in that time to be a good listener. And, you know, I don't expect people to understand and always agree with me, but respect is an absolute must, right? It's an ingrained human right. And anybody who doesn't receive that, I encourage you to find new employment, because there are plenty of great organizations that will respect you for who you are. So that's my best tip.
Best tip. Make sure you get respect. I want to break out into a Aretha Franklin song really, really bad, but I won't. I'll refrain from that. But I feel like that's what we need to remember, that any organization that wants to attract, retain, and grow talent at any level within the organization has to begin fundamentally with making sure respect is shown in every turn, in every policy, every practice, and every discipline across the organization. Otherwise, to Ruben's point, you're motivated to go somewhere else and find somewhere where people will respect and value you. So we want to retain our folks. We want to respect our folks at the most fundamental level. And you guys have given us some great insight to that. To having the discussion about what respect is in your workplace is my tip. What does respect look like to you? How is respect being demonstrated to you within an organization? What are opportunities that we can improve upon that maybe we're not being as attentive to your needs as we should be? Ask those questions, whether it's in a focus group, whether it's in your performance reviews, whether it's in a one-on-one session, whether you just walk in my office, I want to talk to you about, I've been thinking about this. Whatever that looks like, have that discussion about what does respect look like. And it's as individual as you can get it would be the best. So sometimes the focus groups, I don't want to talk about it, but it's close to individuality as you can get it. I'd love to see you have those conversations. But thank you all so much for tuning in and to joining us with the essence of respect, having that conversation. We'll be doing some more sessions about that, really doing some training around what does respect look like, how do we demonstrate respect, and then how do we, build that ground again if we've had a distrustful working relationship with someone. So tune in for those upcoming podcasts, and we thank you again for joining us. Thank you all guests for being here. You guys have been regulars. I love the returning visit, so thank you again for that. We're out.
Thank you for joining Perspectives, a podcast by Essence Learning LLC. Essence Learning is your solution to personal and professional development. We partner with our clients to develop a learning strategy that will increase productivity, enhance performance, and align with their purpose and goals. For more information, visit us online at essencelearning.net or call us at 1-877-657-5755.